think that conservative play calling in any walk of life when you're a college football coach, there's just no use for it anymore. Like, and I can't like fault Lincoln Riley for running the ball at the goal line there, but it's like you have the best quarterback in college football. Try to get 5 yards, try to get a first down.
Well, and
Like running it up the middle
lesson,
2 times.
Here's a
Like,
nice
what are we
lesson
doing?
to Lincoln Riley. And I don't know that Alex Grinch is going to be USC's defensive coordinator next year. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to hear that Alex Grinch took another job that sounds strangely like not as good as the one he has now, but took it anyway because maybe it wasn't available. The one he has wasn't available to him.
Mm-hmm.
But look at what a true nose can do. He can stuff you on the goal line and get a safety.
Well, it's like in that position, if you're Lincoln Riley, don't you have to know that if Tulane gets the ball back down 6, you're going to lose? And if so, do you run the ball 3 times, try to get a punt off and play defense, or do you do everything in your power to get a first down there?
Yeah, like just as long as Caleb Williams is healthy, they should just be trying to score because
Tulane couldn't stop them.
No.
So why are you going conservative up the middle in that position?
It's funny because all of this is a philosophical problem. Like the basic philosophical problem is they don't care enough about defense to actually put a good one on the field. Like they don't practice it right. They don't scheme it right. They don't populate it right with the right kind of people. And I'm going back to Oklahoma here. Like they put guys who should be 3 techniques at nose, and they're too small for what they want them to be. They need to do it all differently. But you make a great point. If you're going to be, if you're not going to field a conventionally good defense, if you refuse to do that philosophically, then why are you trying to
impact your offensive philosophy?
Why are you trying to play conventional offense as if you actually have a good defense?
That's the perfect point. Like, if you've never played blackjack before, but you go to a casino and they have those cards on there that give you instructions of like what to do if you have a 3 against a 6 or whatever, and you just like play the hands based like you're a robot. I feel like there was a coaching manual for that like existed 15 years ago that some coaches have been able to put down completely, but other coaches continue to look at in certain critical scenarios that have nothing to do with the way that they approach offense at all. And it's like, I think if you were to look at the college football offensive play calling blackjack cheat sheet, it would tell you in that moment when it was published in 1993 that you should run the ball up the middle and try to get some space and get a clear punt off. But if you're the head coach of your team and the Cotton Bowl's on the line and you're already given up 39 points,
and the other have to look at that, cannot stop your quarterback,
and you can just continue. I mean, how many dink and dunk first downs did USC get that entire game? They were receivers wide open on the sidelines.
13 of their first 16 third or fourth downs in that game.
And you played football, so tell me, because I only played the high school level, and everybody always says you've never played football, so you can't know anything about it. But is it that much harder to throw a 6 or 7 yard out in the end zone?
Well, from 6 or 7 yard out is a almost, there's a real pick 6 risk there, but there are other things you can do. I mean, you can line your guy up in the shotgun and run a slant. I mean, they were hitting those all day.
And it's like Tulane knew exactly what the play was going to be.
Yeah, you need it. I mean, you can run a quick game pass from the shotgun where you should feel relatively safe that you're not going to have to deal with a safety. Now, what you worry about is an offensive lineman holding and you getting a safety that way. But it's funny because as I watched it, I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're exactly right. Like the blackjack card for Lincoln Riley is if Caleb Williams is on the field, double down every play.
Yeah, it's like the guy won the Heisman. Let him win the Heisman. I mean, like that's and the second they punted the ball, I was like, oh, they've got a minute. This defense can't hold anybody, especially not with the game on the line. And sure enough, they went down the field, converted 2 fourth downs on the way to the touchdown, and then got it there at the end with 10 or 11 seconds left. So good for Tulane. I guess this was a almost 100-year revenge game.
It's incredible. And Stephen Wilson with the great line here. The best running joke from this game is Lincoln Riley escaping having to play the SEC at Oklahoma just to lose in spectacular fashion to a founding member of the SEC at USC. That's right. Tulane, founding member of the SEC, decided to get out in the 60s. Kind of regrets it now.
Yeah, I kind of think, too, that, and Vaughn just said something that sparked my memory of this point I want to make. But watching 2 college football games, you should know not to call off the dogs. And I think Ohio State, to a certain extent, maybe it was because they lost Marvin Harrison, did a little bit. USC didn't call off the dogs, but they were overly conservative. I think that in college football at the highest level, and I guess if you want to include the Cotton Bowl in that highest level, Andy, defense isn't winning you games. No. USC's defense isn't going to win you games.
Well, let me ask you about this, because I heard a lot of criticism of Ryan Day for not running the clock more in that game, that they were snapping the ball with. I remember we talked about in the press box. We're like, why are they snapping the ball with 30 seconds on the play clock? But isn't that him doing exactly what we're criticizing Lincoln Riley for not doing?
Well, I think it's all situational football. I mean, you can still run an aggressive offense, but not use all the time on the play clock. But I do understand and respect, like, how much time was left. Were they in the middle of the third quarter when people were saying that? Or were they
fourth quarter? This was
fourth quarter.
This is fourth quarter.
You know, I mean, it's like you can give Ryan Day crap for not running the clock down more, but I think the biggest issue was they gave up a 75-yard touchdown when they were up by 2 scores.
The other thing is Georgia made a schematic change where they decided we're just going to blitz all out and whatever happens on the back end. Now,
what I do think Ohio State
probably don't do that if Marvin Harrison Jr. is in the game.
Is after that big CJ Stroud run that got him inside the 30 or to the 30, I would have lined up in shotgun and thrown it 3 more times. They ran the ball on first down, and I think it put them behind the sticks a little bit. And then at that point, it went to a few more passes, and then that would set up the worst field goal of all time. But I don't know that I think that Ohio State lost that game because they were too conservative. But what I do know is that every single coach, and I said it about the quarterback competition thing too, when I used the Brock Purdy thing. Why does it take an injury to know what you have on your bench? I also think the coach has to know exactly who his team is, the situation that his team is in, and know that, you might want to play for defense if Georgia's defense is going to trot out there and get a stop. But USC can't stop anybody. So by running the ball, even if they wouldn't have gotten that safety, you're already conceding yourself to potentially giving the team that is going to score on you the ball back at the 50 with 1 minute and 10 seconds left. And it's like Lincoln Riley should have started that drive thinking there's no possible way that we're going to win this game if we don't get a first down here. Yeah. And run offense that is indicative of that thought process.
And you know what? They probably would have scored another touchdown and won.
Yeah, they probably would have scored.
They would have had a 99-yard drive.
And I understand if you have a pass play that's going to take 3 or 4 seconds potentially to develop, that you're nervous about a safety happening in the end zone. But Andy, the safety happened. It happened doing the conservative thing.
Exactly. And Caleb Williams having the ball in the shotgun is probably less likely to get sacked in the end zone for a safety than any other human.
And more likely to get a 9-yard gain on the ground.
Exactly. So, yeah, they have to change philosophically if they want to get where they want to go. I wrote that after the Pac-12 championship game. The Cotton Bowl only reinforced it. I would imagine if they were going to make a defensive coordinator change, which I still think they're going to, it may already be known to the people inside.
We'll tell people that hadn't read your column from Vegas what you wrote.
Okay, so after the Utah USC Pac-12 championship, I wrote, this will never change until Lincoln Riley decides to change. I'm talking philosophically, globally, not just change defensive coordinators, because you could change coordinators, but if you don't decide defense actually matters to you, you are not going to do anything different. This will be the same banging your head against the wall, like Oklahoma in 17, Oklahoma in 18, Oklahoma in 19, USC this year, same. They're the same. And you have to decide you want to do something different if you're Lincoln Riley. And that's going to require some self-scout. That's going to require going to other coaches and saying, how'd you do this?
You're USC. You take that job. You have all that money. What I would do is I would take you see this like nice wall behind me that has nothing on it. Mm-hmm. It'd be perfect for a projector, right? So I would take a projector and I would put up Georgia's defense. I'm going to be like, can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we be like that?
And guess what?
And give me a reason why they couldn't.
You can do that. Well, here's the reason. Lincoln Riley has to practice like Kirby Smart practices. He has to be willing to hit the way they hit. Georgia players spent all week at the Peach Bowl talking about Bloody Tuesday. Urban Meyer used to talk about Bloody Tuesday. Like the teams that still win at a high level hit all season long.
Yeah, it's not just about hiring a defensive coordinator or maybe trying a new thing schematically. It's a complete overhaul of the way that your program perceives the importance of defense.
Yeah.
But you can't do that unless you have a new coordinator. because I don't think that you can fix that problem with the same coordinator.
I think they're going to change. I would be very shocked if Alex Grinch is their coordinator in 2023.
Yeah, the number one thing I always see on Twitter is or the new phrase is serious versus unserious. If you don't change that, somebody tweeted, I don't remember who, but I saw it like 4 times. If USC doesn't change their defensive coordinator, they're not a serious program, or they're an unserious program.
This is fair sentiment. You've got to check. You just got to decide what matters to you. And if winning the national championship matters to you, well, who wins the national championship? And look, Georgia didn't get to the national championship game with defense on Saturday. No. Georgia's defense got shredded. Yeah. But it did make a stop when it needed to.
Well, here's the thing. Offenses are inherently better than defenses now.
Yes.
So you have to have a defense that gets you through the season.
Yeah.
But you have to have an offense that can score 45 points in the playoff. I mean, what was the lowest scoring team in the playoff? 41?
Yeah. Well, you also have to have a defense that's going to win you a game every once in a while. Like,
or got to stop when you need a critical stop. Like USC's defense could have been kind of meh all year, but if they would have stepped up and forced a turnover like they did for a good large portion of the season, or gotten off the field, they would have won the game.
Probably an example of them winning the game with turnovers, not with stops.
And turnovers are a inexact science and an unreliable metric. But nobody watching that game thought that USC was going to get a stop there, did they? Even on the 4th downs, I knew they were going to get firsts.
Tulane converted a 4th and 6 and then a 4th and 10 on that last drive. And the 4th and 10 was just crazy because Pratt looked calm as hell.
He was flushed in that play, right?
He was flushed out of the pocket. He steps up and he gets right before he gets to the line of scrimmage. He looks downfield and there is a guy wide freaking open. Just wide. And it wasn't
like
how
people get so wide.
It wasn't like the Caleb Williams play where he ran for 11 seconds and then threw the laser beam down the left sideline. Like, this was a more conventional, like USC's DBs just got lost.
Yeah, and it's like the Ohio State play that blew the game for them, 75-yard touchdown or whatever it was a coverage bust, right?
Right.
I don't understand when you're watching USC how guys are that wide open in the middle of the field, 6 yards past the line of scrimmage. It's like, where is everybody? Like, how do you get that lost? And they're taking
slants and just running through arm tackles and gaining. I mean, I go back to the Pac-12 championship game. There was a 65-yard touchdown that should have been a 22-yard gain.
Right.
And the guy broke like 7 tackles. It was insane.